Welcome to Farm to Family Cooking Series. My name is Gil Rodriguez. I'm a chef instructor at Skagit Valley College. Today we're going to make a side dish, and we're going to use golden beets, onions, this crazy guys right here, which are garlic scapes, or like a garlicky asparagus, and some collard greens. And these are so not too approachable of a green, and I'm going to show you how to work with them and also how to cook them in an easy fashion that is not braising them. We have a sauté pan, and I already have some cooked beets here, and all we did for the beets was we peeled them and cubed them and cooked them for about 10 minutes in boiling water. To start this dish, we're going to get our pan warmed up, and we're going to go to medium heat. While that's happening, we're going to slice our onion, okay? And anytime that you have a vegetable that is round, you want to have a flat surface, so you have something that is solid against your board and you're not cutting yourself or risking to cut yourself. So I'm going to cut that end, and I'm going to take my onion and lay it on that flat side. I'm going to take these hairs off of here from the root end, and then I'm going to cut the onion straight in half. Okay, and then I can easily peel it by pulling back. Anytime you peel an onion, you'll see that translucent skin there. Try roll it out with your fingers like so, because that makes the knife fairly slippery and could be fairly dangerous to be cutting with it there. There we go. Get rid of that. All right, and now we're just gonna slice the root end off. And then we're going to cut slices with the lines of the onion. That's also going to prevent you from crying nearly as much when you're cutting onions if you cut them with the ribs. The veins with the water go through there. If you're cutting with them, it'll be less likely for them to spray you. I'm going about 1/4 inch. And then when you get about right there, halfway, flip it over. That way you'll have a more stable onion. Cut that guy, put it to the side. All right. Now that we have that, our pan should be nice and hot. I have some canola oil right here. We're gonna pour some oil in the pan. And we're gonna add the onions, and we'll keep watching those as we're working with the other vegetables. Right when you put items onto your pan, make sure you turn the heat up so you can help the pan remain in the same temperature as you need. Okay. Our next ingredient is going to be some garlic. I have some garlic that I already peeled here. I'm not going to mince it today. I'm just going to slice it. I want this a little bit rustic, and I like the touch that the sliced garlic gives to the dish. So I'm just going to give it a quick slice there. They don't have to be super thin. Just know that you just have to continue moving them when you cook them, and that way they will not burn in one side, okay? All right, we have some garlic. We'll move that to the side. Let's work with this collards. Collard greens, most people usually would think that they have to cook this for hours at a time. First thing that I always do is wash them, inspect them. If you have little holes like this guy right here, go ahead and rip that off and discard that. We don't need that part. Same here. And then the other thing that is really important is to not get rid of the stem, and you simply just hold it at the base and just pull, and you'll have the stem to one side and the leaves to the other side. Okay? We'll work through this thing and get all the stems off of here. Know that when you're working with collard greens, you should start with about 6 times the quantity you actually need. They shrink fairly. It's a pretty big shrink when you're working with collard greens. So know that this right here will become a small portion of the dish, right? And notice that I just kind of folded the leaves and I'm rolling them as much as I can right there. And then I'm just going to take my knife and cut them at about a 1/2 inch. I'm going to cut all the way through, and I'll have these strings that almost look like noodles that we're going to use in our dish, okay? And our collard greens will look like so. But don't worry about it, they're going to become fairly small. Okay, so that's our first 2 things that we have there. And then our third ingredient here is our garlic scapes. And as I said before, they're just like asparagus. There's just a little garlicky flavor on them. The bottom of the garlic scapes tend to be a little stringy, and usually I would just cut 2 or 3 inches from the bottom of the stem, and then everything else could just be cut. They cook fairly quickly, and so all we want to do is get rid of about that much right there, and then we'll cut them into smaller pieces. All right, I have these guys right here. We're going to check on our onions. And you should start getting some brown in there, and that's what we're looking for. That's why we did not move them for quite a while, because we're trying to get some caramelization in there. There's 2 different ways to caramelize. We're going to caramelize nice and slow, and we'll get really soft onions that are brown all the way through, and we can caramelize at a higher heat, which will give us a little bit more of a darker color, but it won't be throughout the onion. It'll just be just the surface. Okay. At this point, I'm going to add a little bit of salt here, and we're going to season the onions so they can release some water. And then as the water after the water evaporates, we'll get a better caramelization. Okay, and I'm turning up the heat. And we'll finish cutting out our garlic scapes. And you'll notice that these are a little bit cumbersome when it comes to cutting them. But they can all go in one ring. And that's kind of how I organize them. Instead of trying to grab the stems to keep them straight, I just go onto the circle and I just cut them straight in half. It doesn't matter if they're a little bit larger, a little bit smaller. Pieces like so will be good. Okay. All right. So the onions are about there. I'm going to move them one more time. Okay. Now we're going to add our garlic to the pan. And the goal here is to continue moving the pan as you're cooking the garlic. I'm also going to add the rest of my oil, which is about another tablespoon of oil. What you want to see is that the bottom of the pan is well coated with oil. You don't want the oil to be deep, but you just want the whole bottom to be well coated with oil. And then I'm just going to grab my spoon and continue moving this until the garlic is very fragrant. Don't wait until the garlic is brown, because then the garlic will burn. If it's fragrant, it's good enough. It'll continue cooking with the rest of the ingredients. As we move forward, right here, we're going to introduce the beets, and the beets will bring some moisture, which will prevent the garlic from burning. All right, we're almost there, guys. Now, garlic scapes come in. Bring it to high heat. And then we'll introduce the collard greens. You'll notice that some steam will start coming up from the pan once you add your greens. And that's a good thing. This is providing moisture. Don't move it and let it sit for a little bit. I have some almonds here, and these are optional. You can use them if you want, or if you don't want, you can exchange them for any nut. Okay, and but the goal here will be to let this sit for a minute because the greens are keeping the moisture in there, and it's finishing to cook the onions and the garlic. Okay, at this point, I'm going to season one more time on top of the collards with salt, pepper, and a little sugar. And the sugar will bring the sweetness of the beets out, and will give the onion a nice caramelly color. Okay, and then we're gonna just continue moving this, guys, and we're almost there. It's a very simple dish that you can do with this ingredient from your CSA box. You can add things like quinoa to this, barley, rice. You could add some meat if you like, but I like leaving this dish as a vegetarian dish. It's nice and hearty. You can go many ways with this dish. It's a very simple application of this dish, but you could easily replace salt with soy sauce and make it more of an Asian dish. You could put some hot sauce in here and maybe squeeze a little bit of lime in there, and you'll have a perfect side dish. And this would be great for a barbecue. All right, and we're ready. This is it. It's fairly easy. Grab some of these greens, put them in the center of the plate. Take some of these beets and onions. And then we can finish this guy with a little bit of almonds. And there we go. Collard greens with beets and garlic scapes. Thank you.